Hey guys, welcome back to Platinum Off-Road. In this video, we're going to talk to you guys about relocating your vacuum pump when you're going with the Teraflex dual-rated sway bar system. This trick could also be used for other systems if it's requiring of it. However, with this system, as you disconnect the vacuum pump itself, Teraflex provided you with a pretty neat bracket that's going to allow us to bolt up near the brake booster system. And it is a really nice fit. We're going to show you that in just a second. So what we want to do is once you've disconnected the primary vacuum hose and then the breather line, we want to also show you that this bracket that's allowing the sway bar system to go through, it has to have the actual vacuum bracket gone so that it can all fit in nice and tight. So once you get that taken apart, you're going to want to focus on those lines, okay? Those lines actually attach with a number of Christmas tree clips just here behind the back side of the radiator support. There'll be two, and they follow down in just here behind all this funness. So what you want to do is you're going to now come up to the intake side and you're going to disconnect this guy from the main supply or where it joins in. If you come up here, you're going to follow that off of your throttle, just behind the throttle body on the intake plenum, and you're going to follow that through till you see a T connection here. Let's see if we can get that clear. There we go. You're going to see that T connection here. Now that lower hose is the one that comes up and joins up in to that line that goes down behind the radiator support. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect it here. Now this has been connected since it left the manufacturing plant, so yes, you're going to have to give it some love. There we go. And once we go back, we've already gone back on our vehicle and removed all the tabs that hold it down. So what we did is you can actually pull it down through the lower portion of this. You want to feed it from the top and pull it down from the bottom, and it'll come on out. Of course, if you got a lot of electrical connections that are being ran through there, you'll hook up. But so once we have that out, now notice this line is still here. So go ahead and pull it apart. There's just some retaining clips that are real simple. You can actually pull those back, and you're going to pull this over. Okay. So now, if you look at this, this is going to be able to reach over here by the reservoir. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and grab our vacuum canister, and we're going to bring that over, and we're going to show you guys mounting it up and how we can plumb that line into the vacuum pump itself. Real simple. So let's go ahead and we'll bring the bracket over and we'll work on mounting it up. Okay, as we make our way up toward the firewall, you're going to first notice that the factory horn location is in the way. It's held on by a 10mm nut just over here off the inside of the fender. And once you get that off, you're going to want to go ahead and take the bracket itself off. Once again, another 10mm nut. This is so that way we can take this bracket over. We're going to modify it. We're going to have to drill out the hole to a 5/16, and then we're going to have to cut off the individual plate, the little tab over here that's going to get in the way. So let's go ahead and modify it. We'll show you what it looks like, and we'll get it back together. Okay, so now we've gotten to the electrical part of the project. Come back down and find your factory plug. And what you're going to need to do is you can unwind the factory harness tape that they've got here on the loom. If it gives you any problems, you can actually just cut through it. But it should peel back pretty easily. I've never really had these where they've given us too much of a problem. And it'll go down in behind the loom and then continue. Now, what we're going to need to do is we're going to have to access these wires, because we're going to actually extend this harness back up through behind the radiator support and up along the fender system and heading up towards where we just relocated the vacuum pump. So what we're going to need to do now is you're going to want to cut these. Now, I personally, when I'm working with a 1/4-inch loom like this, what I like to do is I like to offset my cut, so that way with the heat shrink connectors that we have here, they're going to be able to lay inside this loom pretty well next to each other, and this loom can then fit back over it pretty well. Again, don't be afraid to get in here and do some work. If you need to actually give this a little bit more space, you can get in here, cut back some of that tape. Again, this is nothing that you can't put back together with tape of your own, but rather you're just kind of getting a little bit better access to it. There's nothing more difficult than working with wires that are hidden. So once you get your wires pulled back through there you go. Now, Teraflex provided us with heat shrink butt connectors here, and what this is going to allow to do is after we go ahead and we get them put on each of the wires, make sure you get that copper line all the way in there to the insulator before you crimp this down. And you always want to double check those, pull on them, and that way you know it's got a good connection. Remember, if it fails you just simply pulling on it, imagine the test of time, poor continuity, things down the road that you don't really want to happen. So check it now, and that way you don't have to worry about it later. Okay. Now, Teraflex provided us with a green wire and a black wire, very similar to what's actually here in the factory harness. And all we're going to do is expose the end of the wire on the ends of it, plug them into these connectors, and then we're going to shrink them down. You can use either a heat gun or a lighter. It doesn't really matter. They're pretty tolerable to intense heat, so don't really worry about burning it. Even an open flame, it'll withstand that. So that might be something that you want to do if you don't have a heat gun. Alright, so now we're going to move up, and we're going to take these lines and we're going to follow them through. We're going to bring this harness loom back up here towards where it was factory, and we're going to run these up. We're going to go ahead and wrap these in the provided quarter loom that Teraflex gave us, and we're going to end up routing them up, back up along the fender area, and we'll meet you back up top. Okay, so once we found ourselves up here back at the top, we're going to go ahead and we pulled a fish line through here. We did pull this up here alongside of the radiator support. Once we get this finalized, we're going to want to make sure that we zip tie it off in certain places. That'll keep it away from anything that'll get hot or moving. So go ahead and pull that through. Now, you can go ahead and pull it behind even the brake mount, the ABS brake mount. However, you know, the main thing is getting it behind the ECM, the computer mount, and getting it routed back through here so it'll stay nice and tucked away from anything and out of sight. And then, like I said, you can see here you're going to have a lot of extra wire as you come and try to pair up with the factory plug. And so we're going to be able to take some of that off as we move the OE connector back up here and put this plug back together. We're going to cut quite a bit of wire off, which is perfectly fine. Rather to have a little more than not enough. So we'll go ahead and make that connection, and we will get things hooked back up and finished up. All right, guys, so we hope that everything went well for you guys on your install. This is what we were looking like once it was all done. Make sure you get your 10 mil back behind the horn tightened up and the firewall nut tightened up. Same thing goes for the actual vacuum pump mount down there at the brake master cylinder. You want to get that nut tightened back up. Again, once you get this finished out, a nice connection, we actually were able to put this down in an existing hole. We did trim off one of the little Christmas tree tabs and just used one of them to get into that hole. Everything looks good. Route that just below the reservoir and it'll kick back over there towards the intake and just right where it teed in. Now what we did when we come back down here is we're able to see that we brought that loom down and we were able to work that loom, the new loom, back up, and there was a pretty cool little tab here in the radiator, side of the radiator, that we were able to use to help guide that as we worked our way back up. We were able to keep everything out of the way from anything dangerous back there, and it all went well. So we hope this was helpful. Again, we do thank you for joining us today. Give us a subscribe and a like if you don't mind, and stay tuned for more videos in the future to help you get your Jeep build off to the right start.